I never believed in haunted places, not because I was brave, but because every ghost story I had ever heard came from someone who knew someone who knew someone else. There was always distance, always uncertainty, until room 307, and until I became the last person to walk through its door. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is this. If you're ever offered a room at the old Crestwood Hotel, don't take it. No matter how tired you are, no matter how desperate you are, never accept room 307, because the last person who entered that room never left, and that person was me. 3 years ago, I was driving across the state during a business trip when a storm swallowed the highway. The rain came down so hard it looked like a wall of black water. My GPS lost signal. My phone died. The road became unfamiliar. Then, through the darkness, I saw a flickering neon sign. Crestwood Hotel. Half the letters were burned out. The building looked abandoned, but a faint light glowed inside. I pulled into the parking lot. The lobby smelled like old wood and dust. Behind the front desk sat an elderly man reading a newspaper. He looked up the moment I entered, not surprised, not curious, almost as if he had been expecting me. Without asking a single question, he slid a key across the counter. Room 307. I noticed immediately that the room number wasn't printed on the key. It had been scratched into the metal by hand. Something about that unsettled me, but I ignored it. I was exhausted. As I climbed the staircase, I heard someone call out behind me. A woman stood near an old vending machine. Her face looked pale, worried, terrified. She stared at the key in my hand. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Don't stay in that room." I laughed nervously and asked why. The color drained from her face. "You'll understand after midnight." Then she turned and walked away so quickly it looked like she was running. I should have listened. I should have walked out of that hotel immediately. Instead, I continued down the third-floor hallway. The silence up there felt wrong. Not peaceful, not quiet. Wrong. There were no televisions playing, no conversations behind doors, no footsteps, nothing. The hallway seemed frozen. Room 307 waited at the very end. Its door looked older than the others. Dark stains covered the wood. The key resisted when I turned it. The lock clicked reluctantly. Inside, the room appeared completely normal. A bed, a dresser, a desk, a bathroom. Nothing unusual, at least not at first. Then I noticed words carved into the wall beside the bed. The letters were deep, violent, as though someone had carved them in a panic. The message read. I stared at it for several seconds. A warning left by a previous guest, or maybe a prank. Either way, I was too tired to care. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and fell asleep. I woke up suddenly. A loud knock had shattered the silence. 3 slow knocks, heavy, deliberate. I sat upright, listening. The room felt colder. Another sound never followed. Just silence. After a moment, I got out of bed and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No one stood outside. No footsteps echoed in the distance. Nothing. I opened the door. The corridor stretched in both directions, completely deserted. I stepped back inside and locked the door. My heart was racing. But eventually I convinced myself it had been another guest playing a joke. Then I remembered the message on the wall. Do not answer the second knock. I laughed at myself. There wasn't going to be a second knock. At exactly 2:03 in the morning, it happened again. 3 knocks. Slower this time. Louder. As if someone was standing directly against the door. The sound vibrated through the room. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked in place. Then I heard a voice. My mother's voice. My mother had died 6 years earlier. Yet there she was, speaking through the door. Open the door. The voice sounded perfect. Every detail, every breath, every pause. I backed away. The voice came again, softer this time. Please. Then another voice appeared. My brother. Then my best friend. Then someone else. A voice I recognized instantly. My own. I was hearing myself standing outside the room. My own voice whispered through the door. Open the door. A cold wave of panic rushed through me. I covered my ears. The voices continued, begging, pleading, imitating. Then suddenly everything stopped. No knocking, no voices, nothing. The silence felt even worse. Hours seemed to pass. Then I heard footsteps, slow footsteps, walking back and forth outside my room. I moved carefully toward the door and looked through the peephole. A figure stood at the far end of the hallway. Tall, far too tall. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. It wasn't moving. It simply stood there, watching. Then it smiled. Its mouth stretched wider than any human mouth could. The figure began walking toward me, one slow step at a time. The smile never changed. The eyes never blinked. I stumbled away from the door. The footsteps continued. Closer, 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 until they stopped directly outside. Then came breathing. With breathing, heavy breathing, the sound of lungs struggling to function. A whisper followed, so faint I almost didn't hear it. Let me in. The lights flickered. The room shook. At first I thought it was fear making me imagine things. Then I saw the wallpaper begin to change. Names appeared beneath the surface. Hundreds of names, as if they had always been hidden there. People, dates, years, decades of names covering every wall, every corner, every inch of the room. I moved closer. Each name belonged to someone who had stayed in room 307. Some names were old, others looked recent. Then I found the newest one, my own. The letters slowly emerged from beneath the wallpaper. Fresh, dark, impossible. I wasn't reading a list. I was becoming part of it. The bathroom mirror cracked without warning. Thin fractures spread across the glass. Words appeared inside the cracks. A message written from the other side. NOT room. Another line appeared beneath it. At trap. Then a final sentence. IT's memories. Everything suddenly made sense. The voices, the knocking, the names, the creature in the hallway. Room 307 wasn't haunted. It was hungry. The people who disappeared weren't dead. Not completely. Fragments of them remained trapped inside. Pieces of memory, pieces of identity, echoes trying desperately to escape. The room fed on them until nothing remained. Then the door opened by itself. I never touched it. The hallway beyond was gone. In its place stood endless darkness, a void stretching forever. And inside that darkness stood hundreds of figures, silent figures, watching, waiting. I felt something happening inside my mind. Memories began slipping away. My childhood, my family, my first home, faces, names, moments. One by one they vanished. I tried to hold on. I couldn't. The darkness pulled at me. The figures watched patiently. The room had finally finished feeding. The last thing I remembered is taking a step toward the open doorway. Not because I wanted to, because something inside room 307 wanted me to. Police searched the hotel after my disappearance. They found every room except one. Room 307 no longer existed. Only a blank wall stood where the room should have been. The hotel eventually closed. Years later, it was demolished. But strange reports still appear from time to time. Travelers driving through storms claim they see an old hotel standing beside forgotten roads. A hotel with a flickering neon sign. A hotel that shouldn't exist. And behind the front desk sits an old man holding a single key. Waiting. Watching. Expecting. A key with one number scratched into the metal. If you ever see it, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever happens, never answer the second knock.